And one of our main speakers for the Congress is Mr. Zach King. Zach. Zach is a man that knows both darkness and knows light. He knows evil, he knows mercy. For many years of Zach's life, it was given to Satan as a Satanist. And a Satanist is someone who believes that they've sold their soul to Satan, and they know and they understand that they will do as much harm to mankind as Satan will often ask them to do. This talk, I will warn you, can be very challenging, can be very provocative, can be very unreal. But Satan is real. The one enemy of divine mercy is Satan. The one enemy of our souls is Satan. What you are going to hear this morning isn't a story that has been made up. It's a real and true story of how God, in His time, can change the hearts of the most perverse, the most darkest people that we would believe in humankind.
Thanks.
That's how a lot of people would see this testimony.
10 years old, I started 5th grade, and we played a game at school in the bathroom called Bloody Mary, or I Hate You, Bloody Mary. It's a spell, actually, but you don't know that at 10 years old. You think it's just a game. You go into the bathroom, you turn out the lights, and you chant a phrase, and then you wait for a scary face to appear in the mirror. Now remember that if the face is appearing in the mirror, it's got to be standing with you. We would see that scary face, and most of the kids would run out in a panic, screaming. I wouldn't. I was fascinated. And it's not snarling. It doesn't talk. It's not talking to me. It's just there. You know, and I kind of equated. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't attractive, but you know, bulldogs aren't attractive, but they were born with that face. So I just figured, okay, I mean, it's born with that face. I don't know if it's a spirit or what it is. But every time we did the chant, I saw the face. And at the same time as that, I'm playing Dungeons and Dragons every weekend. Always the wizard or the sorcerer. And I just wanted to do magic. I wanted magic to be real, and I wanted it so bad. Now just imagine if you could do a magic spell for anything. That'd be so cool. Yeah, and that was how I led my life. I mean, I wanted magic. I wanted anything that I could play that had magic in it, I wanted. If I saw there was a movie coming on Saturday or Sunday and there was magic in it, I had to watch it. So as I'm doing that, it one day occurs to me, I wonder if I could do a magic spell in real life. Now, everyone's already told me that magic doesn't work. It's fake. Now, I know that I'm made fun of anyway because I'm a little nerd, a little nerdy kid. I don't need to be made fun of for one more thing. So I decide that I'm going to do a magic spell for money, and I'm going to see what happens. If it doesn't work, no big deal, but then I probably won't waste my time playing D&D or doing this Bloody Mary thing anymore. But if it does work, then I'll know that I've one-upped the adults because all the adults think it's not real. So I did a spell for money because I thought, I don't really want to hurt anybody. I just would like to have some cash. And it would be cool if magic works and I could get some. So I did a spell for money, and the next day I went out, played, and I found a can of tennis balls with a $5 bill in it. And I thought, all right, well, I mean, you know, $5, everything I love, everything that's dear to me, comic books are 15 to 20 cents, candy bars are 20 cents, and penny candy is a penny. Told you I was a nerd. And I was like, all right, $5, I can get a good stash with that, but somebody had to find that. I'm gonna do the spell again next weekend. I did it again the next weekend, and I found a $10 bill on the side of the road. And I thought, all right, $15, 8 days. All my stuff is dirt cheap, but this still could have been a coincidence. So I did the spell one more time the next weekend, except this time I went into the bathroom at home and I did the Bloody Mary chant. So I did my magic spell almost all the way through. Then I did the Bloody Mary chant, and when the face appeared, I made sure it knew I was doing a spell for money. Thought maybe whatever this is, I can harness the power of this and make it work for me. And the next day I went out and I found what looked like Monopoly money rolled up tight in rubber bands. I took it home, and later that night I unraveled it all. A bunch of rubber bands wrapped tightly around Monopoly money that turned out to be real money. I had never seen a $100 bill before. When I unraveled them, I had 10 $100 bills. So I had $1,000. I knew that magic was real. I knew that magic worked, and I knew that I was going to do this every day for the rest of my life, and probably not tell anybody because, why would I? I mean, this is like the best kept secret in the world. So I decided that I'm going to do this, and I start doing that. I'm doing the Bloody Mary thing every day because I always see that face appear, and I'm still playing D&D every weekend because it's fun, because now I know that the magic in there is real. I use the magic, the money spell came from a D&D book, and so I'm doing all this stuff. And when I was 11 years old, I was the victim of a sexual assault at school. In America these days, it was at the hands of a female teacher, and in America you hear about this stuff almost daily. And some weeks you do hear about it daily, and it's a different teacher every time. But in 1977, that wasn't something you heard of. Teacher told me it was my fault, I wanted to do it, I volunteered it, it was my idea, and I enjoyed it. I had no reason to doubt her. She's the teacher. She's in a position of power. She told me that I would be in trouble if I told anybody because it was my idea, and this is bad. So I believed her, and I had no one I could tell, no one I could say anything to. So I just dove further into magic. That's what gave me solace, that gave me peace. In magic, I was always on top. I was in control. I was the powerful creature. Because when you're a little kid, you've got no power. And Satan makes you think that he will give you some, when in reality, he's just chaining you. He's putting you in binds, and he's controlling your every movement. You're being ruled by your sin, but you think you're in control. So at 12 years old, I found out there was a group that played D&D every weekend and also believed magic was real. And my friend told me about them, and it turned out that my friend was actually a recruiter for satanic cult, but I didn't know that. I went over there and they had like every fantasy movie ever made, even more than what I had seen. They had pinball machines and video games, the things that I was really into. And they had an in-ground swimming pool that was bigger than the city pool. And they had an in-ground barbecue pit, and they had weekend get-togethers and sleepovers almost every night. And if you got in a fight with your parents, you could come there and hang out. And if you just left school, for the day, you could come there and do your homework and get help with it, get tutored. And you could do anything you wanted. Like at my house, you could have 3 meals a day and maybe a snack. But over there, you can eat as many meals as you want and as many snacks as you want. There's no limit. And you find out when you're hanging out there that what goes perfect with a big meal is a cigarette, or a beer, or a whiskey, or, why don't you get drunk for the first time, or the second time, or the 10th time? It's no big deal. Just don't tell your parents, So I'm getting involved with these guys, and I think this is a great time. Also, as I'm being involved with these guys, they tell me one day, when you were 11, something precious from you was taken, and you didn't want that to happen, but you did enjoy it. You did have a good time. Your body did respond. So how about if we'll let you can do that anytime you want to here. You can have as much fun with that as you want. No one can tell you no, as well as if you're doing something and you don't feel comfortable, you can stop. You have the complete power and control to do whatever you want, and we'll film it so you can watch it anytime you want. So for about 4.5 years, I was a victim of child pornography, thinking that I was on top, I was controlling everything, I was doing what I wanted to do, not realizing that I'm being re-victimized every weekend. Later in the year when I was 12, a kid told me, "Did you know you're a member of a satanic coven?" Well, I had seen all the scary movies from the 60s and 70s about satanic covens, and this was nothing like that. I was having all kinds of fun. And, but it kind of bothered me, you know, because I was thinking, what if I'm a member of a satanic coven? So I went to an adult and I said, hey, I heard something funny. I heard I was a member of a satanic coven. That's not true, is it? And he said, well, you are in a satanic coven, but you're not a member yet. You know, and I was like, okay. And then he said, do you want to be a member? And I equated not being a member with losing all my privileges. Like, I didn't know where to buy drugs. At 12 years old, I can't buy cigarettes and alcohol. I can't have sex with anybody I want. You know, if I don't join this coven, I'll lose everything. I'll lose all my friends. So I said, yes. I said, what's involved? What do I have to do? He says, well, there's 13 steps to joining a satanic coven. And you've done almost all of them. You just have a few things left to do. So my remaining steps were that I had to sign, there was a 5-page document. I had to sign it in 3 places. I had to slice my left thumb and bleed onto the document. Then I had to sign the document in blood in 3 places. The blood of Jesus washes away all sin, but not mine. Jesus died for everybody, but not me. I signed those 2 places, and then on the final page, I say that I'm selling my soul to the devil. Now, it's impossible to sell your soul to the devil. Is there anybody here that thinks you can sell your soul to the devil? Ooh, nobody's raising their hand. You guys have heard me before. You are correct. You cannot sell what you do not own. So, but I don't know that. I'm 13 years old when I signed this contract. I thought, you know, why would adults lie to me? The Satan's giving me everything that I want. I can do anything that I want. I'm having a great time, you know, and eventually, when I'm old and ancient, I'll eventually die and I'll go to hell. But in between now and then, I'm going to have all the fun I can. That was my mentality, and all my friends had the same mentality. So they put you in a room with a large baptismal, and I'm wearing a white robe signifying I'm losing my innocence. They baptize you, which is full submersion, in a vat of human blood, pig's blood, and human urine. They bring you up. Yes, it's disgusting, isn't it? They bring you up, you go in another room and take a shower, you change into a black robe, signifying you've been baptized into a world of evil. You pull the cowl up, and you go in another room and you sit down. You're handed a wheel with a crucifix in it. The document you signed is read off, and you show them your left thumb to show that it was you that signed in your own blood. And then you spin the crucifix upside down, signifying human sacrifice, and you break the arms downward, signifying denouncing Christ. And then they intertwine the document with the wheel, and they tell you that your soul is forever tied to this document, and it's locked in a vault, and you don't have access to it. No one ever sees it again. Then we have a party after that to celebrate that I'm now a Satanist. When I was 14 years old, I was told I was going to participate in my first assisted abortion. I said, oh, that's cool. And then I went home to look up the word abortion because I didn't know what it meant. My dictionary at home didn't really have a good definition, so I went to the library, and there were like 4 books that were all like 2 or 3 inches thick, and I thought, no, there's no way I'm reading that to find out. I just want to know a simple definition. So I went back to my coven and I explained, you know, listen, I know it. You said I was going to do an abortion, but I don't know what that means. And he says, oh, it's simple. You're killing a baby in the womb. I was like, is that legal? He goes, oh yes, as long as it's in the woman, legal. Comes out, murder. Okay. So I practiced for a bit with a scalpel and Play-Doh or a scalpel and apple and different stuff. And my only job as the magic practitioner is that I have to get blood on my hands. It could either be the woman's blood or the baby's blood. I got blood on my hands at the assisted abortion, but I don't know if it was the baby's blood or whose it was. I was so nervous and so scared. I didn't really know anything of what I was doing. That was my first one of those. Now, I'm not going into detail on this one, but it is one of the most disgusting practices. You know, there's different levels of spells. There's very basic spells, and that would be like equivalent to walking up to your friend and kicking him in the shins. There's other spells that would be like punching your friend in the stomach, or kicking him in the groin. Then there's a hex. A hex is like the top spell you can do. And in that, when you do a hex, you want to murder a baby at the same time. And that would be the equivalent of dropping like a hydrogen bomb on his house. You almost absolutely, positively get your wish when you do that spell because you've gotten Satan's favor. You've gotten his attention. In the course of my Satanism, with that cult, I did a total of 5 of those. Now, when I stopped, I talked to a friend about 8 years ago. I had just come out, I had just converted, and he said, you know, your talk is really good, but it's age appropriate for 15 and up. Well, the problem with that is that by the time I was 15 years old, I drank alcohol every day, almost to the point of getting drunk every day. I smoked cigarettes every day. I smoked pot every day. I took mushrooms every day. I took acid every weekend. I was addicted to pain pills. I was in child pornography. I was addicted to sex. I was addicted to pornography. I was addicted to masturbation. And I've broken all 10 commandments, including murder. And now I'm 15, and I'm able to hear my own testimony. I'm not saying to bring your small children to my talk, but you have to take what I tell you home and put it in the language that your children would understand. They have to be warned. Your children are naturally curious. They don't need to hear it from me to suddenly get the idea, oh, I'm gonna go try magic. It's all over the internet. Harry Potter is very popular, still. Your kids will read that stuff and wonder, just like I did, can I do magic? And they will duplicate it. To make a spell work, you need intention, repetition, and demonic presence. So if they try it and there's a demon present, the magic spell will work, and your son or daughter will be hooked that that's the way to go. And it's absolutely not the way to go. It's the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. At 16 years old, 17 and 18, I just dove further into magic. They made me one of the main magic practitioners of my cult, and I was totally enjoying everything that I was doing. I was immersed in so much evil, I couldn't have told you. If there was a light in the room, I couldn't have found it. When I was 18 years old, I graduated from high school, and my town was really small, and I was thinking, what am I gonna do to find a bigger coven, or a coven when I go to another town? I was going to a city. It was like anywhere from 500,000 people to 1 million people there. And I thought, all right, I don't know how to find, this is before the internet. For anybody that's younger in this room, we didn't always have the internet. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, they're not gonna just advertise it anywhere. It's not like in the town square there's gonna be a sign that says satanic meeting here. Well, what they did was one better. At my school, they had what was called the student union. And in the student union, they have all the groups that, like political and religious. So you have like the Baptist student union and the Catholic student union and the Republican and the Democrat student union. And then they also had the Satanic student union. And I went to a couple of their meetings, and it was a bunch of kids away from home for the first time that believed Satanism was all about getting drunk, getting high, and getting laid. Well, okay, those things were used by the devil, but that's not what I wanted. I heard there was a satanic cult out there to rule the world. They wanted to take over. They want to rule everything. Like they're going to rule the banking industry, they're going to rule big money, politics, Hollywood, everything. I was like, that's what I want. If that's true, that's what I want. I want to get involved in that. So I contacted my first coven, and they put me in contact with this other coven, the World Church of Satan, or Satan's World Church, also Diablo Sex. Now, any coven that embraces the name Diablo Sex, because my first coven did as well, Diablo Sex is the name taken by covens that are involved in child prostitution, child pornography, and human trafficking. And those institutions, those groups are all over the world. So I joined that one. I start going to their meetings, and it doesn't take me any time at all to rise right up getting higher and higher, meeting more and more important people, and getting like into the inner circle, really meeting the important movers and shakers in there. And one day, when I was 12 years old, I was at a sleepover, and this guy walked in at like 3 in the morning. He was wearing like a tuxedo, but more old school, had a top hat and a cane, and his face was painted up like a member of KISS. And I thought, that is the coolest thing ever. Whatever he's doing, I'd love to do that. And I asked people, and no one would tell me who it was. So then fast forward about 8 years, and I'm at this meeting, or maybe 6 years, I'm at this meeting, and I see one of those guys, and I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, that's the High Wizard. I'm like, what's a High Wizard? I said, well, in a smaller coven, a high priest or priestess is the top magic person. In our coven, a high priest or priestess doesn't hold any rank because they could have been self-appointed. We have military ranking to assess the different magic levels that you reach. The High Wizard is taken from a lieutenant or higher, but could be somebody of lower rank if potential is seen. The devil handpicks the High Wizard. And then you're called before a meeting, and no one knew what happened before, after that. So I thought, I've got to get the devil's attention. So in the course of all my evil, I managed to get the devil's attention by the time I was 21. When I was 21, I got a notice that I had been picked to be the High Wizard. They call you into a room, you meet with the CEO and board of directors. That's who runs my coven. My coven in 1989 had 1.1 million members worldwide. It's kind of big, and it's very organized. It's more organized than a lot of small churches. My coven did 3 main jobs among all the other evil they did, because they did spells for big money people and power people all around the world. We did abortions for people all around the world, so we were doing a lot of hexes. There's between 2 and 5 High Wizards in the world. The number could be as low as 1 or as many as 10. The attacks that we do 2 active attacks and 1 passive. We have I describe it as 3 houses. Each house is back to back. So you have 2 like this and then 1 on the end. Each one has a privacy fence around it, so they think they're the only house. If you're the High Wizard, you know about all 3 houses. But if you're working, you just know about the one that you're working in. So one house attacks the Baptist church, and all they do is split them, either through monetary scandal, sex scandal, or gossiping scandal. My team worked with a gossiping scandal of the Baptist church because I grew up Baptist. The other scandal, the other types of attack is against the Catholic Church. You know what kind of attacks those are because you see them. The other house is the passive attack. The passive attack puts out information, literature, movies, books, speakers on communism, socialism, New Age religions, and atheism. Aren't you even the least bit amused that atheists are truly Satanists? They know that there is a God and there is a devil, and they're putting out speakers to go to your town and speak to you about how silly God is and how silly the Catholic Church is, when they know that the Catholic Church is the right place, and they know God is real, and they know the devil is real, and they know if you're an atheist, you're going to end up in hell. And that's their goal. So those are the 3 houses that we worked with. I joined, I made the High Wizard. I decided, yes, I do want all the power in the world. I do want success. I do want money. I do want all the sex I can handle. I want all the drugs I can take. I want all the booze I can drink. I want everything. I want it all, and I want it now. And that's what I did. One of my main jobs was that I sold contracts to people that wanted to be famous. Like if you were a famous rock star between 1987 and 1999 and you had a hit song, there's a good chance I sold you your contract. Now, what they're buying, I'm telling them, I go to what's called a warehouse deal. You go there's a bunch of rock stars. Some of these people can't sing, they can't dance, they can't do anything. They have no skills, but they're willing to do anything for fame and fortune. So I asked them, what are you willing to do? When you say you'll do anything, what are you willing to do? And most people will say, well, I wouldn't have sex with an animal, or I wouldn't eat a pile of feces, but I'd do anything else. Well, that's not the person I'm interested in. I'm interested in the person that says they would do anything, and when I cite those as examples, they say, yeah, I'd do that. Then I give that person a card. It's called a second tier. That means they go to another place, and they're going to have to do one of those disgusting things. It may not be those two exact things, but it's going to be something that the rest of us would cringe or vomit if somebody said, this is what you have to do. That's disgusting. But they'll do it. And you want to know how much they'll do it? Google search musicians from 1987 to 99. There's a lot of music came out during that time. There's a lot of rock stars willing to sell their soul for fame and fortune. So I'm doing that. I did 146 abortions total in my lifetime. Now that's assisted abortions. As I said, I'm the magic practitioner. My job is to get my hands bloody. At 3 of my abortions, they didn't work. And as a Satanist, I couldn't figure out why. I'll give you an example of one, and maybe you can tell me why. I arrived, usually abortions are done after hours. So they're done at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, sometimes later. So we go in to do these when the clinics are closed, but we still have access and there's nobody outside. Well, on this particular occasion, there were bikers outside on our side of the road. There was a satanic biker gang, and across the street was a bunch of people carrying strange-looking ropes and praying. I went inside dressed as the High Wizard, and we're prepping everything, and we've got these large windows upstairs, and the people across the street get down on their knees. And I asked my friend, what are they doing? He's like, I don't know. I grew up Baptist, but you don't drop to your knees to pray. So I opened up the window to hear, because they're all saying something, they're chanting something. So we opened up the window, because as Satanists, we chanted too. So let's see what they're chanting. And everything they're saying doesn't make any sense, but we're saying it back and forth to each other. And we're saying, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. And we're like, what is that? What are they saying? That's so strange. And we said the entire, like we didn't say the entire rosary, but we said the entire Hail Mary, not knowing what we were saying. And then we closed the window back, and we went back to do the abortion. And this woman is saying that the baby's coming. And we've been there for about a half an hour. There's no baby, it's not coming. And the doctor keeps checking, and I keep checking, and no reason really for me to check, you know, that he's the doctor. But she's swearing that we're both idiots, we're both incompetent. Is this our first abortion? What's wrong with us? We need to go ahead and get down there and get to business. You know, she's about to give birth. We need to go ahead and take care of this. We're like, there's no baby in the birth canal, you're fine. And then we stand there and talk for another minute, and we hear a baby crying. And we look down, the baby came out. In my old satanic coven, if the baby was born, it would be adopted. And not by a Satanist. No Satanist wanted the baby. So it would go to a decent home. Well, that happened 3 times. A very similar story to that. Never occurred to me back then that, you know, a rosary is being said across the street, and that's what's preventing the abortion. So if you're thinking, that, you know, going out in front of an abortion clinic and praying a rosary doesn't do anything, you're wrong. It's very powerful. So I keep doing all this stuff that I'm doing. Like I said, 146 abortions. I split 120 churches, of all Baptist churches. I did everything evil under the sun, multiple times. Remember, I broke the 10 Commandments by the time I was 15. By the time I was 16 or 17, I broke them again. Everything. You take an examination of conscience form, a good one, like we have a good one on our table. And it's got, there's like probably a few hundred things on there. Probably done everything on there. And after a while, when you can sin all you want, it's not fun anymore. It's boring. You know, it's like I said a few days ago, it's like you got a job in a candy store, and the first day you're there, there's bright lights and colorful tiles, and the floor is always clean, and the candy's always fresh, and it's bright colors, and it's like a giant rainbow, and it smells amazing. And your first day, you're like, man, I'm going to try out a different piece of candy every day, and I'm going to see how long it takes me to go through all of it. Well, after about 30 days, you've had everything you want. And in 6 months, you've had everything you want multiple times, and you've tried the stuff you knew you'd never try. You've had it. And you're sick of being there. And after 3 years, they refurbish the store. But it's just as ugly as it ever was. And the lights are kind of dull. And the clean tiles now aren't exciting. And the rainbow is faded. And the store smells horrible. Like you want to throw up every time you walk in. And now you've been there 5 years. You don't want to eat any more candy. Candy makes you sick. You might even be diabetic now. I had that job for 12 years. I hated it. The last 2 or 3 years, I hated my job. Not because I wanted something holy or godly. That's not an option for me. I sold my soul. I'm just tired of doing what I'm doing. I'm so disgusted by it. Everything is just vile. Everything is bad. I stopped doing so much stuff, and people were like, "Did you really convert?" I was like, "No, I'm just tired of doing this." It's not, when you can shock people by the words you say, that's fun. But when they stop shocking other people, when it just becomes like regular language, it's not fun anymore. It's sort of like, imagine being a NASCAR driver. You're driving a race car. I imagine that when those race car drivers first start, when it's their first job, and they're in there for the first 5 years and they're winning all kind of races, that's got to be exciting. What about those racers that have been doing it for 20 or 30 years? Oh, you've got to get in a car and drive around in a circle a bunch of times. It can't be that exciting. Well, it was the worst thing for me. So one day I decided I wanted to escape. So I made a doctor's appointment and I drove towards my doctor, but instead I kept going. I drove about 400 to 450 miles and my car ran out of gas. I had torn up all my credit cards. Everything that I had that pretty much identified me, I tore up, except I did keep my driver's license. And I went to, I sold my car for scrap so I'd get extra cash. And then I hitchhiked to a Greyhound bus stop. And I caught a ride to Canada. And Canada, this is before 9/11, Canada wouldn't let me in. So I thought, okay, fine. So I opened up a United States atlas, closed my eyes and put my finger down, and it landed on Oklahoma. I was like, all right, I don't know anybody there, let me go there. So I hung out in Oklahoma for 3 years, and then decided, all right, I'm gonna try Canada again. And I drove up to Canada, and I got rejected again. And then a friend told me about a border crossing that has no guards. I thought, that's cool, I'm gonna go there. And I go there. They never have a guard there. There's a guard there the day I go. Like, okay, so, and I didn't think of it at that time, but I realized afterwards, God didn't want me in Canada. So I came down, and I'm running out of gas, I'm running out of money. So I went to Vermont. That was like the closest state to me. I went to Vermont, and that's where I decided I'm gonna lay low here as well. And I didn't join, when I moved to Oklahoma, I was still doing magic, but I didn't join a coven, I didn't do abortions, I didn't break up churches. And when I was in Vermont, I did the same thing. I didn't join a coven, but I still did my magic. I was addicted to magic. I love magic more than anything. And being in this, I met my wife we got married in October of '07. And I left out one little detail about my life. I didn't tell her that I had been a Satanist for over 26 years. A little minor thing. Remember, the devil is 99% truth and 1% lie. So we got married, and I was a manager of a jewelry store in America. And I went to work one day, and this woman came up, and she said she wanted to buy a pair of gold hoop earrings. And then I was just about ready to close the deal, and she said, well, actually, I'm shopping with my daughter, and I've got to go finish that, and when I'm done, I'm going to come back and buy them. And I know when women say that, that means I'm going to go find them cheaper someplace else. But she had an honest face. She had a face that said, I'm really going to go do that. So I was like, all right. So I put them aside. 3 hours later, this woman comes back. We do the transaction, and I said, if you call the number on this receipt, we're having a promotion right now, and you could possibly win $1,000. She's like, oh, that's great. I've got something for you, too. This is words I don't want to hear, because I know a pamphlet's going to come out, And somebody's going to say you need to drop to your knees and beg for forgiveness and ask Jesus into your heart, and blah, 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 blah. I don't have that option. You cannot, as a Satanist, go tell a Christian, sorry, I sold my soul to the devil, and don't have the option to do that. You know, they get offended, and then they start trying to witness to you even harder. If somebody would have come up to me to witness to me, I'd have just cussed them out and walked away. If you gave me a pamphlet, I might have read it out of entertainment, and then I would just throw it away. So this woman instead pulls out a little gold disc. And I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, that's different. I mean, I'm expecting a pamphlet, and this little gold disc comes out. I don't know what this is. And she says the most bizarre thing. Now, you've heard my testimony. 26 years a Satanist, 146 abortions, 120 churches, all the evil I can stand. If you're going to say something that I think is weird, you're out there. She said, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. I've got no reference. 2 people like that. All right. I have no reference point for the Blessed Mother. I have no idea who that is. I grew up Baptist. Mary gave birth to Jesus. So I'm thinking, Isis? Gaia? I don't know. And she says it's very powerful. Well, now I know she's not a Christian, because Christians don't bless anything. So she's got to represent a cult. Probably like some female deity cult. I'm not really interested. You know, I thought, I came from 2 big cults. Not interested in yours. As well, if I joined that cult, it could be connected to my first one. This could go poorly for me. And she starts talking about more stuff. I've got no idea what she's saying. I've just totally tuned her out. Whatever it is she's saying, I still don't know. She just went on and on and on. And then I tuned back in. And she tells me again, it's very powerful. Well, now I'm insulted. Now I feel like you're challenging me. How dare you tell me it's powerful? And I'm thinking, I was the high wizard for 12 years. I was the top magic practitioner. Yeah, I might have shared that position with 9 other men, but I did it at a time when the world had close to 7 billion people. 7 billion people, and I am one of the top 10 magic practitioners in the world. Who are you to tell me that little blessed miraculous medal has any power whatsoever? This cannot do anything to me. I am more powerful. If God was stronger than me, God would have stopped me when I was killing babies, but he didn't. And this is my attitude. I am better than you. I'm better than everyone in the room. I have more power than anybody. There's nothing you can do to me. Give me that medal. I will show you. The Holy Spirit used my ego and my arrogance against me. I put my hand out, she dropped it in my hand. My plans were to close my fist around it, feel that it has no power, and then I'm going to toss it on the floor or slam it on the counter. Up until now, I had remembered that I had sold this woman gold. That made my sales day. I was very excited, but now I don't care if she returns it. I don't care if she gets her money back. You don't tell me that something is powerful or that it can do something. I will tell you. I clenched my fist around it, and my mall and my store were gone. I was standing in a darkened void. There was nothing there but me and this woman. And she's telling me about all the sinning I've committed. And after she says whatever she says, she ends it with, and that's of the devil. And you did over 100 abortions, and that's of the devil. And you've been a Satanist for over 25 years, and that's of the devil. And you broke up over 100 churches, and that's of the devil. And everything she says ends with, and that's of the devil. And she says again, and I'm terrified at this point, I equated what she was able to do with magic. As the high wizard, I could not have done this. That somebody can do this, I'm in awe. And I think I'd like to let go of the medal, but am I going to fall through this void? How do I find my way back to my mall? I have no idea. And she tells me again, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. And I instantly knew that was the Mother of God, which is one more person like that one. What a cheap way to get applause. So as a Baptist, we would have never said Mother of God. So it had to have been the Holy Spirit telling me. But I knew it was the Mother of God. And as soon as I knew it, Mary appeared. She smiled, and she took me by the hand, and she gently turned me around. And Jesus was standing behind me. And I knew Jesus was my Lord and Savior. I knew that I had not sold my soul. Jesus was there, and I knew that everything that was Zach, all my magic, all my occult, all my evil, everything that I was doing that was for the devil stopped. And from now on, everything I did was going to be for Jesus. And the Blessed Mother told me that my job was to help her end abortion. And I opened my hand, and I was standing back in my store, back in my mall. This woman, Marianne Wickman, is still talking to me. She's still telling me about her church and how awesome everything is. And she told me where she goes to church, and she tells me that she's Father Joe Whalen's assistant, and that's the St. Raphael Healing Oil Ministry in the States. And that Father Joe is the busiest priest she's ever known. She's the assistant, and he doesn't have time to talk to her. And while she's talking to me, her cell phone rings, and she looks down, she goes, "That's Father Joe, I've got to take it." Well, I realize, busiest priest you've ever known, blah, 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 go ahead, take the call. So she takes the call. Father Joe is in his 80s. He's losing his hearing, so he talks like everybody's losing their hearing. So whatever he says on the phone, I can hear it. And she's like, "Father Joe, what can I help you with?" "Can you hand the phone to the young man you're talking to?" And I'm like, now I'm shaking like a leaf. How does this man know that I'm right there? How does he know this is happening? And she hands me the phone. And I was like, "Hello? Welcome to the faith. Hand the phone back to Marianne." So I do that. I got 2 more calls. She sent her daughter out to the truck to get me one of each of everything. You're Catholic, one of each of everything can be a lot of stuff. I got this huge Catholic care package, and then I went home, and my wife, who had been involved in a bunch of New Age stuff and loved trying to contact her spirit guides and playing with a Ouija board and doing automatic writing, and thought that my magic was just the coolest thing in the world. I opened the door and I said, "Honey, guess what? I'm Catholic now." That response you just gave me, she didn't give me that. She wasn't too happy with that. I started going to Mass almost immediately. I started going to daily Mass like either the next day or the day after. For the first time the priest consecrated the host, I saw Jesus. I thought that was the most amazing thing. I thought if you were Catholic, you saw Jesus. I asked Katie, I was like, "Do you see that?" She goes, "What?" I said, "That man up there." She goes, "That's the priest." I was like, "No, the other man." She's like, "No, I don't see anything." And I thought, no, she doesn't see Jesus because she's not Catholic. So, I got Monsignor LaValle came over and blessed my house. He found out that I saw Jesus in the Eucharist, decided to make me Catholic because if I'm a former Satanist and I'm seeing Jesus in the Eucharist, I'm obviously Catholic. I obviously have Catholic written all over me. I found out that there was a place called Perpetual Adoration, which was awesome, so I could go see Jesus anytime I wanted. My very first experience with that is that I equated it to going to see a rock star because I thought, it's Jesus, it's God. There should be a line to get in there. I mean, like in America, there's a line to get in to see Elvis, and he's dead. So I go in, when we get there, it's me and my wife, we get there, we're the second car in the parking lot. That was kind of a shock. We go in there, there's no line. It's like, okay. We walk into the Adoration Chapel, and it's me and my wife, Jesus, and this woman. And this woman looks up, she sees me, she looks very surprised, and she starts packing up her stuff as fast as she can go. Like, if this was an Olympic event, she got gold. she put everything together. She then picked it up, she looked at me, and she said, "You can't leave till someone else shows up." And she runs out the door. Well, why would I leave? I'm in a room with Jesus. So I started hanging out at Adoration between 1 and 18 hours a day. It was awesome. One person likes that. We officially entered the Catholic Church in May of 2008. I assisted with another ministry for probably a year and a half, and then the Blessed Mother told me that I needed to get out there and do our own thing. I was looking for what would be an awesome name for a ministry because I really love the Blessed Mother. I mean, she rescued me from the pit of hell. But then I found out about Blessed Bartolo Longo, who used to be a satanic priest and then became a Catholic priest. And then I really love Padre Pio. I mean, admit it, you just like saying the name, Padre Pio, it sounds cool. And I really like Saint Benedict, and eventually I was like, oh man, I like 10 saints. I can't name the ministry. And then I listed 10 saint names. I was like, it doesn't sound good. It doesn't roll off the tongue. So then I went with, I thought, we're in a society now where we talk about inclusion. We want to include everybody. No one should be left out. So I thought, okay, I'll embrace that too. All Saints Ministry. It's the name of our ministry. So if you're thinking you'd like to know more, allsaintsministry.org. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.